And it was actually Mel Neuenheis, who, is he still the mayor of Delavan? Yeah. And he would come in and he'd put the boombox on and crank that song. And in 6th grade, I mean, I just loved it. I felt like I was in like the Bon Jovi music video playing basketball or something like that. And it's interesting to me how, even though that was so many years ago, I don't even want to count them, it's like a snapshot of my life that I remember like it was yesterday. Do you have those moments in life where it's like, I don't have a lot of them, but there's some moments in life that I can put a finger on that I remember it just like it was yesterday. It was like, you know, some moments are really good, some moments, you know, it might be the most embarrassing moment of your life that you remember yesterday, but there's these times in life that I can just put a finger on and say, I remember exactly what I felt like. And there's some things in the Bible that kind of take on these same ideas. And most of those I like to refer to as the heroes of the Bible, or the epic stories of faith and life. And this morning we're going to kind of take a look at one or two of those. But usually when I think of those people, I think of Abraham or Moses. But my favorite one is Elijah. Do you guys remember Elijah? I like to call Elijah the John Wayne of the Bible, because he had just an awesome role. He got to be God's prophet during the reign of Ahab, which things were a little crazy during Ahab's reign. He got to raise people from the dead. This is my favorite. He got to call fire down from heaven in great big, I don't know if it was one fireball or a whole bunch of fireballs, but he got to call fire down to heaven to burn things with fireballs. How cool is that? Would that be, I could hear the Bon Jovi music playing while that's going on. He was taken up in a whirlwind, and then later on, he was there when Jesus went up into heaven at the Transfiguration. So he's kind of one of my favorite people, and you might not know this, but the name Elijah that he has, it actually means my God is Yahweh. That was his name. And so, because of that, because of the role that he played throughout Israel, he had a very, very important part with God. But what I like about Elijah, when you really start reading about him in the Old Testament, is that Elijah, even though he was the John Wayne type and stood up to King Ahab and to the prophets of Baal and everything else, what I liked about him is that he always felt inadequate. He was always praying these prayers to God. God, I'm not sure what you have for me or exactly how I'm do this. I'm not even sure I'm your man, but if you are asking me or calling me to do this, I'm going to do it, despite how inadequate I feel right now. And I think that's pretty key. Here at the River, we often ask people to do things. We ask you to serve, we ask you to sign up at the info spot for this or that, or to join us in doing life together, or to help with kids' church. It seems like we're always asking. Now, we're not asking because, you know, we're selfish and we just want you to do work for us. We're asking because we want you to be part of the family, because we want to get to know people in the church more. We want you guys to love and appreciate what's going on here and to be part of everything, despite sometimes feeling inadequate. Now, I have a video that I'm going to show you in just a second, and the video is of a good friend of mine, Jonathan Bradley, and Jonathan has a really neat story about how he started coming to the River, and this video kind of explains that. But for him, it was something that he didn't know where he was going to get plugged in. He came to the church and he was kind of unsure, and then all of a sudden, you know, he stepped forward, even though he wasn't sure he was the man or felt gifted or something like that. And it has been amazing to just see that process and the work that God's been doing through somebody that stepped forward. So let's watch this video real quick with me. James 5:17, it says, Elijah was a human being, even as we are. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years. I love that verse. Can you guys imagine kind of praying a prayer like that? It was raining this morning. Did anybody feel like praying that it would go away for another 3.5 years? Probably not this year, because we're kind of in a drought. But But what an amazing prayer. Can you imagine having the faith to pray a prayer like that and have God listen to something like that? A lot of us have prayed huge prayers of faith together. We've been surrounded by family and friends, and we've prayed that God would do this or that, or that would help us with, maybe hard times in our life or with our family. And sometimes we believe it and sometimes we don't. And I think it's important that when you look at the heroes of the Bible, at these snapshots of epic times of life, that you see that God was active and moving, and that he wasn't just kind of a person up in the sky, but he was actively involved in your lives. And that's what we have here at the river. We see God moving all the time. And I love that about us. I want to go to Hebrews 11, Hebrews 11:6. It says, "And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and he reward those who earnestly seek him." I really like this because if you go through and you read Hebrews 11, and by the way, that's going to be your homework assignment when we're done, is to go through and read the whole chapter of Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 is kind of a snapshot of heroic faith in the Bible, and it starts with Genesis 1, and it goes through and talks about Abel and Enoch, and then later Noah and Abraham and Isaac and Joseph and Jacob, and it talks about all these icons of faith, and it gets into a little bit about who they are and gives one example after another. And altogether, it uses the expression "by faith" about 19 times throughout the chapter. And as you read it, you get the understanding that faith was important. Now, there's a little history behind this chapter. There's a little history in that this was in the New Testament, and there are a lot of people that had left the former Old Testament way of living, of Judaism, and they had turned to the new church through Jesus' new covenant, through dying on the cross in his blood. And through this new church, they were putting aside all the old ways, and they were changing their mindset. And it was interesting because a few of them really got hung up on the law. And this summer, Dale's mentioned the law a few times, so some of you are very familiar with that. But some of them got hung up, and they were actually thinking about, I don't know if this new church thing is working for me. Maybe I want to go back to Judaism. And they would make references that the old people in the Bible lived by the law. And Hebrews 11 is kind of a answer to that, saying it wasn't about the law, it was about faith. It was about what's in your heart. And as you read over and over in the Bible, throughout the life of David, throughout Hebrews 11 and many, many other places, it talks about that heart. The last song we sang together, that's what it was talking about, is heart, mind, and soul. And what that means to me is that God is most concerned with our hearts. He's not necessarily concerned that we're in the law, following it to a T. What he's concerned of is he wants us to come before him and say, "Lord, I'm giving you my heart, I'm giving you my mind and my soul, and I'm going to be obedient to that, and the rest will follow." So whether he's asking you to step up and serve, or whether he's asking you to join a small group, or whether he's asking you to maybe go on a missions trip, or whatever that might be, my challenge to you is get your heart straight first, and the rest will come. Now, I've mentioned getting involved here at the river, and that's not really what this sermon is about, but it's a good opportunity to talk about it. Some of you come and sit in the pews every Sunday. Some of you are very involved. Some of you have been here for years. Some people have been here for days. But church is more than just kind of going through the motions. As we see through these icons of faith, there was more than just the law. It was about the heart. And when you get the heart in the right spot, you see other places starting to come. We've done some things at the river that have been really fun over the years. We went on a couple missions trips last year and the year before and the year before that. We went to Hawaii on a missions trip. Here's a picture of Hawaii. And although Hawaii on a missions trip sounds pretty fun if you ask anybody to go on it, I'm not saying it wasn't fun, it was a great experience. I wasn't there, but they ministered to a really needy, desperate place in Hawaii, and they're going again this January. If you have ever thought about doing something like that, I encourage you to talk a little bit more to the info spot or to Wes Lawson about going. What an opportunity. The top picture is a photo that we took right before the youth group left for a missions trip up to Wausau this last summer, and it was just an incredible time of God moving. I was talking earlier today about snapshots of life, and there's no question that these pictures represent snapshots of heart change and about taking a step forward for Jesus. There's other times too. Here's a picture of the baptism that we had at the river. And, do you remember the baptism when somebody came up and they mentioned the sign, the marquee, and that's what kind of got them here and coming? I had already been talking to Jonathan about shooting that video, and then I heard that at the baptism, and I just got chills down me, because it's neat how God intertwines all that together, how God's plan comes together. I'm a wedding photographer, and I shoot weddings every Saturday night. And we decided, about a year ago, I was going to preach on this Sunday, and we didn't know we were going to have Saturday nights. And last night was the only Saturday night that I haven't shot a wedding all fall. And God put that together a year ago. I mean, it's another one of those goosebump moments. But God does that continually when your heart is wired and when you're surrounding yourself with family, like the picture at the bottom, that wants to do that. Now, here's what I want to do. I'm going to show another video in a second. The next video is of the Mabrys. And the idea of this video is to kind of show you what it looks like to start getting all areas of your life plugged in. And not necessarily plugged into our church. Although I am talking about our church, I'm really talking about starting to let God work in every area of your life. I'm talking about getting your heart set so that it's open and saying, God, if you want me to serve, I can serve at church. If you want me to work with the kids, I can work with the kids. If you want me to go on this missions trip, Lord, I'm yours. I'll go on the missions trip. But it's more than that. It's about finding a real, genuine life with Jesus. About letting him into all the little places. It's really easy sometimes to be faithful with Jesus in the big areas of your life, but gosh, when you start to get into those cracks of your life, sometimes you say, man, God, I don't know if I want to let you into those areas. And that's what I'm talking about, is the process of getting God involved with your relationship with your spouse, with your friends, with your workplace, and getting to the point where you don't just do a few things about Jesus in your life, but your life is Jesus. So let's watch this video real quick. I love that baby. Matthew 22, I'm going to read this for you. It says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. My father was a pastor, and sometimes I don't talk about that. And as much as I love it, and I had some great times, and I had the most amazing relationship with my dad I could possibly have, and memories of going to church with him, sometimes I don't mention it because I want my faith to be for me. And I want to inspire my family and my wife and people around me with a heart for God, because that's who I am. I don't want people to think that, I was born with it, or that it was kind of, inherited or carried on or something like that, although there might be some truth to that. I want to be passionate because God is calling me to be passionate right now. I want to be a light in the darkness. I want to step forward regardless of what life looks like around me. I want to have a great relationship with my wife, with my little boys, founded in Jesus, because what God is doing in my life, and because that drives everything else. I love these words in Matthew 22. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And I watched this video of the Mabrys, and while I was there putting it together, I was just so blessed by the testament to what their church family had done with them. How they were integrated. My wife's in a Bible study with Caitlin, and it just started a couple weeks ago, but she looks forward to that like more than anything else in the week. And it's just really neat to see how God weaves us together. And that's really important. It's support. It's times where God will surround us with other believers to help us through that. I don't know if you've ever felt lonely or like you're going about something all your own, but isn't it great to just have somebody come alongside you and say, I'm going to hold your hand, I'm going to help you, I'm going to be your friend, I'm going to make this your home, I'm going to make it what life is all about. And I love that. I look back at these words in Matthew, and I like the second part. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And that's something I think we do a pretty good job at the river, is we bring our neighbors in. And it's about making them part of family with us together. About saying, I want you to be connected. I want more than just to come to a place with you or to have dinner with you. I want to experience life as family with you. I love Jonathan Bradley's last words in that video that, he says he found his family at the river. Jonathan has an awesome family in his own family, but he also found life, hope, and freedom here at the river. And I think if you ask him and his family, that drives them, that makes them passionate. So I mentioned I have homework for you guys. The homework is Hebrews 11. I really would like you guys to read through the whole chapter, especially if you never have before. It's one of my favorite chapters in the Bible because it's inspiring. I love to get motivated. I love just watch the video of Mike. We mentioned that there's a workout class coming up in the parks, and watching Mike work out. I'm like ready to go right now. Mike, let's go work out after church. I'm right there with you. But I love to get excited and enthused about things, and that gets me excited. So here's some challenges. I want you to read through Hebrews 11, and I want you to sit down with the people that you would consider your family. Whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, whether it's your best friends, might even be your boss at work. Whoever it is, sit down and talk about what that means in your life. Talk about the life application and how you can take the next step to really live life with a heart for Jesus in every way, shape, and form. Not just that the Bible and the church, comes in and out of parts of your life, but that your life is focused on Jesus. I want you to bow your head and pray with me just for a second.